Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PSGL. Sorry about the big delay. We've had some issues with the online services from Codemasters, so we're a little bit late. But at the moment, all seems good, and we will be ready to go very shortly. We're here for round 4, and as normal, joined by me alongside is Jake.
Yeah,
Hello,
it's good
Jake.
to be back in the comms box. It's not been the most conventional of starts to the evening, but hopefully when we do get started, the action at Silverstone will be
Yep,
worth a wait. And yeah, based on what we saw last week at Jeddah, I suspect we'll be in for some good action.
definitely. Indeed. The championship, we'll have a little look at that. As you can see, the point gap, because it's quite small, but it can all end very quickly this race. It can be over this race, but it would require, I think, Otis to win both the sprint and the main race, and it would require Smokey to DNF both. But we'll have a quick look at the screen. There we go. And Otis leads by 84 points, followed by Smokey, who is in second with 73. That's just 11 behind Otis. And then Legend is 21 points behind Smokey, meaning Legend is still technically in it if he was to win both the sprint and the main race with the fastest lap. And Otis would score second in both. So the chances are very unlikely, but technically possible. I think Legend's here tonight. Actually, let's have a quick
He's
check.
not. I was
Oh,
just
he's
about
not.
to say he's a known absence as well, as is
Oh,
Skyver, who's P5 in the
yeah,
championship. And although he's not a known absence, I don't see Rudy currently around either. So if to simplify it, it looks like it's going to come down between Otis and Smokey,
yeah,
and it's a strange one really because if I had to guess that gap without looking at it prior, I wouldn't have guessed it was as small as 11 points between them. It's strange because Otis has been a standout driver, but Smokey's still in with a realistic chance of
yeah.
toppling him.
It really is, and obviously we'll be able to see going into the main race um, if the chances of Smokey being able to stay in will be high or not. Because obviously, if the gap's over 25 points, technically 26, obviously it can't proceed into the next race. So, if for example Otis wins a sprint and Smokey doesn't score any points, the gap will increase to 19 points, meaning it'll be very unlikely that it'll go into next race. But you'll see. And we're actually about to get going. Tonight we've got a better track, I'd say, Silverstone, a lot nicer track. And we'll remind you all yet again the race weekend procedure is a one-shot qualifying, followed by a sprint race of 9 laps, followed by the 50% race of 26 laps. But Jake, if you'd like to go through the qualifying session,
Yeah, absolutely,
when we
and
load in.
yeah, of course. And always at Silverstone, of course, if anyone here is watching from Britain, they'll know that you can never predict the weather around here. So who knows what we're going to get? It'll probably be completely dry now. I've built it up, but yeah, it should be a good session. And we've got, although we're missing a few key names, we've still got a very, very talented grid,
Yeah.
including BSR Rowan, who stepped in for his first appearance last week and got a podium in the feature race.
Hmm.
And based on the fact we do try to give different drivers the airtime on the one-shot qualifying, I'm thinking BSR Rowan might be the driver to go with this week based on his performance at Jeddah. Um, like you say, Silverstone's probably much more of a popular choice than Jeddah. Um,
Definitely.
Obviously, the spiritual home of Formula One, the home of the first ever Formula One race back in 1950, and home to many great battles and moments over the years. And hopefully, we get plenty of good action, but maybe slightly less chaotic than what Jeddah tends to bring, which can often turn out to be a bit of a lottery of a race sometimes.
It really
So
can.
we're loading in.
Yep.
15
About
seconds away from the action starting. And yeah, for the moment at least, my prediction of some rain doesn't look all that likely. It looks very, very blue skies indeed after everything I said. So, but yeah, We'll try and see Rowan start his lap if
Oh
I
no, we're
can.
on. I can't get off him, but we're on Wilson.
Okay. That works for me. As we go through the first few corners now, through Abbey Farm up to Village, and it's a very difficult complex of a track. This you've always just got to hook up the corners right and left. I'm struggling to get on board with Wilson, so I'm just going to follow someone else's lap, and hopefully it kind of coincides with what Wilson's doing. But yeah, I'm currently on board with Matthew, who's coming up to the end of the first sector now. And of course, this used to be where the old final corner was before the track was changed in I believe the early sort of 2010 time. Down the old pit straight, of course, now up towards Copse, the scene of the very infamous Max Verstappen Lewis Hamilton crash in 2021. Won't talk too much about that because the comments may fire up. But now through Maggots and Beck, it's probably one of the best bits of the track to drive in a Formula One car. I think of any track in the world, so if you hook it up right. And now onto the hanger straight then, building up through the gears and getting ready to pick the point of turning into Stowe. And looks nicely done there. You got to make sure not to run too wide on the exit because you can invalidate your lap, particularly in this short qualifying format. And now the last sort of few corners now. This is a bit fiddly, a bit tricky, but can produce some good side-by-side action. And up to the line we go, and it's Otis who takes a very strong pole position by 2/10 ahead of Rowan. Matthew in third, Steph fourth, Smokey might be slightly disappointed in P5, but yeah, 126.4 for pole, very good indeed. And Otis picking up where he sort of left off a few weeks ago after he had a bit of a blip last week.
Yeah, indeed. But the main thing to take away from that is that the gap between Otis and Smokey in qualifying was 4/10, which is a lot of time. So, you know, is that the fact Smokey just hasn't got the pace overall, or maybe he's a bit better in the race over qualifying? You know, obviously, we don't know that. It's one-shot qualifying, a little mistake could really ruin it for him. So we'll be able to see what he can really do in this upcoming sprint race, which has 9 laps. So it's not too many laps, but it's enough to at least get some overtaking in, and possibly we could see some really big things in the championship happen here. Obviously, if Otis was to win this, he'd get 8 points. If Smokey was to get where he is now, he'd get 4. So the gap going into the main race would increase to 15, meaning that, Smokey'd have to finish at least 5th to stay in?
Yeah, it'd be roughly that. I think maybe P4 he might potentially get away with, but yeah, we'll see how it unfolds after a sprint race. The problem as well for Smokey is not just a 4/10 of a second gap. It's a 3 cars placed in between them, and you know, obviously this Crossplay Cup it is just a bit of fun. It's not maybe drivers don't put as much on it, let's say, as obviously the regular season. But for Smokey, he's got more to lose, I suppose, as opposed to the cars that he's got in between him and Otis. So how aggressive he's going to play this, we're yet to find out. But yeah, Otis may come under some threat of a start, because we saw last week Rowan, who started alongside him on the front row, was very quick and got a podium. And if he had been able to attend the first couple of weeks, who knows? Maybe he would have been in this fight as well.
You never know. It would have been a close one. Obviously, Legend was in it for quite, the first 2 rounds. Going into the third round, completely dropped it, and then obviously he's not here today, so he's definitely out of it for the championship. But we're about to get started for the sprint race.
Yeah, indeed we are. Conditions still looking beautiful. Sunny Silverstone in Northamptonshire, and you can see the Mercedes on the left, the Aston Martin on the right, and we're underway at Silverstone. Looks like a good start from both of them on the front row. Otis, though, has it covered down into turn 1. Rowan slots in behind Matthew, Steph and Smokey. We've got some cars jostling position third behind them. Rowan trying to go around the outside of Otis, and he's going to then have the inside into the loop. Here he goes, and Otis might be forced out a little wide, but he's not giving this in. They continue to go side by side down the Wellington straight, and it looks to me like Otis just has the upper ground at the moment. Will Rowan try to hold it up the inside? He will, but Otis keeps his car perfectly positioned, keeps the speed up, and there's no way through for Rowan, who is trying to look this way and that for a way through. But that was a masterclass in defending from Otis there at the start, under the utmost pressure, and the top 5 or 6 positions look to be unchanged.
Yeah, absolutely amazing start there. We've had a spin at the back from Jake Marsh, but you know, very good attack from Rowan, but Lawrence's defense, Otis's defense was absolutely top notch. You know, you don't see much defending like that very often, and it shows these two can race together clean. You know, they went through most of set to one, side by side, and nearly touching at one point, but they held it in the whole way. You look at Matthew, who's just sitting behind them. He had a pretty good start. Was nearly able to get through on Rowan a couple of times. As obviously Rowan had to take some alternative lines, but Matthew just stuck back as he knows it's the best thing to do for now. Maybe he was hoping for a bit of Lewis Hamilton Verstappen moment, but obviously that didn't come. Smokey, however, is right on the back of Steph. Now coming through in towards the farm curve, in towards turn 3 now. Just behind him, P5 is Smokey. Currently the gap would be 15 points going into the main race, but that can all change only on lap 2 of 9. And obviously it's a zero stop. You know, it'd be a bit silly to pit stop for new tyres. And then everyone will be on the medium tyres in this sprint race.
It looks to me like MVR Lucas has had a bit of a problem as well as Jake Marsh. So their races, you'd imagine, are effectively over now. Due to that, there's not really too much they can do. We've got some fighting towards the back as Kryptonite and Corey fight over P15, but it's as you were at the front. Otis trying to build that gap. Of course, he wants to try and get a second clear before the DRS comes into operation next lap. That's still going to be a bit of a tall order. He hasn't quite got the gap he needs at the moment. But it is worth noting that Rowan has used a lot more ERS than a lot of the drivers around him, so that could come back to bite him in a few laps.
Definitely could. On board with Wilson now, trying to get the move on Choco. Choco's weaving around a lot there down the straight. Wilson just 1/10 behind, so couldn't get a move on. Yeah, on my screen it looks like Choco was moving left, right, but maybe that was a bit of camera issue there because he didn't seem to lose much time. Otis takes the fastest lap with a 28.8. And Jake and Luke's are fighting, but nope, Luke's is pitting. So either he's going to pit and retire, or he's just going to get some new tyres, or change his front wing. But starting lap 3 of 9 now. Otis just coming through on towards the... Is this the Wellington Straight or the Hanger Straight? Jake?
Good question. It is the Wellington Straight, yes. Yeah. I thought I said that in the qualifying lap, and I was 90% sure I was right, but I always doubt myself for those ones. But yeah, it is the Wellington Straight, and then
yeah,
the
it's
Hanger
also something I
Straight
get confused of.
Beckett's.
Yeah, every time I get confused because for some reason, you know, you got the 3 lanes, you got you got what? The Hamilton Straight, you got the Hanger Straight and the Wellington. I always get mixed up every single time we race at Silverstone. I don't know why, I can't get it into my head where they are, but I always manage to forget. But on board with Rowan, coming after Otis, now the gap between those who's 5/10. Rowan having a really good start here in the sprint race here at Silverstone. But obviously not going to be close enough to make a move at all. 4/10 back, so he's just going to stick behind. And I think that's definitely the wise move. You don't want to make too many mistakes and too many overtakes going into the main race. But Ian, just 1.8 seconds behind Wilson now. He had to get through the the ghosty car of 2D. I think he's out the session. Yeah, I think he's out the session, meaning that Ian doesn't really have to worry about him too much. But apart from that, there's not really much going on through the field. You've got the big train here, which actually, that's the train from first, all the way down to 12th. And then Ian might be able to go... Oh, and Wilson there, just getting spun round, going up the inside on Choco. Was a bit ambitious and has lost 2 positions due to that because... yeah, he got spun round. Definitely not wise from Wilson, but it could have been anything. Could have been an issue with the brakes or something. We'll have a look. But now, Wilson's on the back of Kryptonite. Kryptonite currently P14. Not having the best race at all, Kryptonite isn't. He's currently 9th in the championship with only 12 points. So obviously, we want to make his mark and get quite a few points in this race and next race. Obviously, we don't know what the final round will be because, as normal in this championship, you only find out the track 24 hours before the race. So, obviously, we could say the championship's going to fight next week in wherever. Otis could be like, right, yeah, I could have it sorted, but then again, it could be a track Otis hates and Otis could lose it. Anything can happen with it being a random track.
Yeah, and it's difficult at the moment, the position Smokey's in. He's just kind of stuck in this DRS train, and there isn't. You're sort of almost waiting for someone in that train just to make a bit of an error, and just to create a gap in it. You've kind of got a top 9 all sort of sat in the DRS of one another.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, although Otis isn't too far ahead, I mean he's nearly got 80% ERS left. It seems like it's all very comfortable for him at the moment, and he can just save that ERS for when he needs it the most.
Yeah.
Rowan's still unable to really get close enough. If I had to say one driver that's probably looked the most likely to do something in this train of cars, it potentially is Smokey on the back of Steph, but nothing doing so far. And
Wilson. Sorry, I have to cut you off. I was going to say Wilson was going up the side of Kryptonite there. Ian either let off and let those through, or he had a really bad exit in the exit turn 5. I'm not really sure what happened. All of a sudden, Ian moved over to the left, and Kryptonite and Wilson shot through at full speed. Sorry for cutting you over there, but I thought we was going to see him a big move into Brooklands, but nope, we didn't get one. Wilson's going to stick back for now and try and make an overtake, possibly into Stowe, or maybe just going to stick behind. But at this point, he's 4 seconds behind Choco, so obviously overtaking would be the wisest decision. I'm going to go on with Choco now. He's actually going for a move on Frankie around the outside into Stowe. Let's see, can he get the move and put himself into P10? He's going to go around the outside, very close there, but I think he's done it. He's got it stuck, and there we go, move from Choco and Frankie, put Choco into P10. Wilson, however, has got past Kryptonite as well. Kryptonite just sticking him about 2 tenths behind Wilson, so the move might not be done for this lap. It could carry on to next lap, which it probably will. But look at Smokey. He's on the back of Steph. Steph's lost a couple of tenths to Matthew, which isn't good at all for Steph, but it's good for Smokey because he might be able to get a move, possibly, in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, and Lucas, who's retired, is doing the honourable thing and inviting 2D back into the session. So 2D, yeah, did lose connection. So hopefully we can get him back involved in time for the main race. He's not actually doing, his coaster car's not doing too badly at the moment in P15, but yeah, it'd be good to have him back. And Lucas wasn't having a good race anyway, so has opted to retire from this one. Rowan, Matthew getting pretty close together as well in this train of cars. Steph looking like he was going to get detached for a second. He's having to use a lot of ERS, is Steph, to sort of stay in this train. He doesn't want to lose the 1 second if he's 3 in front, because he will come under threat from Smokey. But you can see how close the top 3 are actually getting now. Otis still not feeling the need to drain his battery at all. You have to wonder, unless he makes a mistake, where can Rowan make a move, because Otis will have the battery to defend where it's needed. But Matthew, I would say, is looking like he could potentially snatch P2 away. And that's the problem as well. If you do go for a move in his DRS train and you get it wrong, you could end up losing multiple positions. And so it's that risk versus reward strategy for these guys at the moment.
Yeah, especially, if you're going side by side into Brooklands, you could lose, 4 or 5 tenths. That can be the difference between being in the DRS and being out. As soon as you're out that DRS, so that can cause many issues for you, as you can start tumbling down the order, because without DRS, you are literally a standing duck, especially when you come in down towards Stowe and down towards Brooklands. There's nothing you can do to defend at all, unless you've got the amount of DRS that Otis has, and I don't think anyone else has got that much at all.
No, Steph and Rowan are probably using the most, the 2 PS drivers in the train of cars. Finn, now that we could be starting to see some action here, because Finn in P6 is in danger of losing the DRS to the cars in front, and you can tell that because he's drained his battery substantially, but it isn't doing him enough to get within a second. So this could be an opportunity here for Black Box to take P6 very soon.
Yep, we'll go on board with Black Box now. He's gaining. He's going to get past him even halfway down the straight. In the Alpine around the outside into Stowe, and that is the move for Black Box. Puts him into P6, pushes Finn, then to P7. And the question is, can Black Box get himself into the DRS? We'll be able to see in this first sector. The gap's 1.1 between Black Box and Smoking. He only needs to get about a 10.5. He's lost a 10th. He's now 1.2 seconds. And yeah, this could cause many issues, but we'll see. Going into the first DRS zone, is Black Box going to be close enough? Because it's bouncing up and down, fluctuating like mad. Going in towards turn 3, the gap's 1.035, so it could get close, but it's back to 1.1. But Schumacher could also be trying to benefit off this if the 2 in front are fighting, which they probably will, because no DRS for Black Box this time around. Schumacher might be able to pop himself up the inside and get a nice little cheeky double overtake. You never know. You know, people go side by side into corners. It can cause them to go really wide and completely off the line, meaning other drivers can just slip through. Obviously, we saw, I think, was it Baku 2016 or 17, and Daniel Ricciardo just shot up the inside of, I think it was 3 cars who were battling into turn 1. He just went up the inside and got through on them all. So maybe we'll see Schumacher do the same going in towards Stowe or something, or in towards Brooklands.
With the help of that overspeed on the last lap, Black Box did set the fastest lap of the race as well, so it showed how much you can gain if you can really get into the slipstream of the car in front. Otis has drained a bit of his battery, to be fair, but he's still got more in hand over Rowan, who is still hanging on to the back of him. Matthew P3, it's as you were, the top 5. Black Box has actually lost a considerable amount of time on this lap to Smokey, so he's going to struggle to get within that 1 second, and he's going to come back under threat from Finn, who he overtook previously, and potentially Schumacher as well. Meanwhile, it looks like the points positions regarding, unless there's collisions, are fairly decided in terms of who's going to be in the top 8, because Jensen has slipped off the back of a train and is 2 seconds behind Schumacher. So the top 8, we don't know the order exactly, but the top 8 looks pretty decided in that regard.
Looking at Finn now, he's only 2 tenths behind. He's really on the pace this lap. He had a really bad lap where he got overtaken by Black Box, but now he's right on the back of him. Schumacher also only a tenth and a half behind Finn. They're going, look how close they are going in towards Brooklands. I think there's about 4 tenths between the 3 of them there. But Finn, all on the back of Black Box. I don't know if this is possibly done on purpose by Black Box to hold them up so they can't catch up towards Steph, because Steph's out the side of the 1 second gap now to Smokey. So we could see a move between those going up towards, so we'll have a watch on them now, because Steph, he's on the pace, but doesn't seem to be on the pace of the top, I'd say, the top 3 and then Smokey. So maybe it's planned by Black Box just to make a bit of a gap so the others can't start catching up. But let's see, does Smokey able to get through on Steph? No, he's not. He's just not got the top speed, has he? We'll move down to Finn and Schumacher now, who are trying to get past Black Box, and Finn's going to go up the inside. That's the back at the last second. That was a bit of a ambitious move from Finn, but they get through there cleanly. Schumacher still just sitting behind him, P8. Got to remember, this, guys, is just fighting for 3 points. And the finish, oh, we missed that. Otis wins the race, followed by Rowan, Matthew, Steph, Smokey, Black Box, Finn, Schumacher, Jensen, Choco, Wilson, going to come home 11th. And then Frankie will be coming 12th with a penalty, so he'll push down, pushes Kryptonite up to 12th. Ian's also got a penalty, meaning 2D will be promoted up to P14. Black Knight comes home 16th in McLaren. He's also got a bit of damage there, so that could explain why he's so far behind. And then Jake Marshall come home in 17th in the Williams. Watching that battle there with Finn, who is it? Finn, Black Box and Schumacher, I completely lost track that the end of the race was arriving there. So it can really caught me by surprise. Don't know about you, Jake.
Yeah, it's one of those. Sometimes when you're in a sprint race, you just almost forget that the end of a race is there. And I mean, Otis just looked like he had that under control while being still under pressure at the same time. He got the fastest lap on the final lap as well, just emphasising the pace that he had. But you know, nicely done from Rowan. Matthew for Smokey. He would have probably felt like he had half a chance of getting Steph on that final lap, but like you say, just didn't have a top speed in that Aston Martin. I wonder if he feel maybe adjust the front wing slightly for the next race, try and give himself a bit more of a boost down that straight. But yeah, some good battles. It was very, very close across the top 8, but yeah, ultimately it was very tough when you're in that DRS train to get overtakes done. And it was all about staying in that 1 second of a car in front.
Indeed, yeah. But as we discussed at the end of qualifying, the gap will now be 15 points between Otis and Smokey, meaning basically, Smokey needs to stay within 10 points of Otis. So if Otis wins with no fastest lap, then Smokey will have to be 5th, 10 points between them. So, this will decide, sorry for cutting you off, this will decide whether the championship is won by Otis here or whether it moves on into round 5.
I will say actually that Smokey could finish a little lower than that, just purely because there would still be 33 points to play for next week. So I believe if Otis, because of a sprint race next week.
Yeah.
So for Otis, if Otis wins, I believe I'm right in saying that it'll be decided if Smokey finishes 7th or lower. So Smokey has to finish in the top 6.
Okay, right.
I
Yeah.
believe.
Excuse me there. Honestly, I'll keep getting thrown off. I keep forgetting we've got sprint races. I said to you before the stream, oh, it's this, and this. You're like, no, there's a sprint race as well. So, I suppose, is that a good or bad thing that I'm not used to sprint races?
Yeah, it's it's a bit of a tricky one sometimes, but you'd imagine, barring massive issues, I feel like Smokey's good enough to
Yeah,
finish in the
I
top
agree.
6. So you'd imagine we're gonna go the next week. But if anything, Smokey kind of needs to beat Otis here because although mathematically it can't be decided this week, he doesn't want to leave himself with a huge mountain to climb next week.
It doesn't, because Otis is always on that top 2 pace. So if he does go into next week, then if Smokey doesn't finish in the top 3, he's got a lot of work to do in round 5. And if it's not a track he doesn't, and if it's a track he doesn't like, then he's got even more work to do. But we've had our little chat, our little debrief, and now the race is about to begin here for the British Grand Prix. We have 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4, and 5, and it is lights out and race on for the British Grand Prix. Amazing start there from Otis. Rowan also getting a little bit of a good start. He's not able to get up the inside, but he had a pretty good start similar to last time. Matthew looking for a little move around the outside of Rowan there into turn 1, but couldn't quite get it done. And I think, that's Smoker there, got up the inside of Steph. Steph goes wide. There's a few cars going wide there. That's another Alpine of Black Box just going wide into turn 3. But Steph's able to get through on Matthew possibly here. We've also got Otis and Rowan fighting. Big snap of Otis here from Otis on the exit there. But Rowan's still stuck behind in P2. Matthew and Steph fighting into Brooklands now. Steph gets him over Matthew, but Matthew's got the inside line in towards Woodcote and Luffield. And Matthew's still got that inside line. I think he's going to keep the move. Yes, he does. All this is helping Smokey though. These are going to burn their tyres completely. We've had an instant at the back. That's Schumacher. That's round at the end of Woodcote. Steph now just 2 tenths behind Matthew. Matthew only 3 tenths behind Rowan. It's been a really interesting first lap of this Grand Prix. But the question is Smokey able to get through some of these cars that are fighting? Because Smokey seems very quick. And Otis has already got a 5-tenth gap to Rowan behind.
Yeah, how on earth is the top 5 unchanged after that opening part of a race? It was just crazy, so much side-by-side action, but they managed to stay in formation from the start, at the exception of Schumacher, who did score a point in the sprint race, but is at the back in this feature race, is going to be up against it. Corey into the pits and's got a pit lane speeding penalty. I was just going to mention as well, this is a bit of an odd one as Corey retires. That's a early retirement. I'm guessing he had damage.
I was going to say there's a big thing going here at the back between P11 and P15. They're all banging wheels, banging wings. It's going absolutely berserk here. Coming out of the last corner, 3 of them went into the back of each other. This is absolutely mad. Kryptonite got sent off the track by the pit lane, and now they're all going, 3, 4, 5 wide into turn 5. This is absolutely amazing racing for us, but for the drivers, not so at all. Kryptonite, not sure if he's got a bit of damage there when he got hit by the pit lane. Lucas got the P15, fighting with Kryptonite. Kryptonite's going to be pushed down into P15, but he manages to keep the inside line for himself. And this might let Jake try and possibly get a move on Lucas as well. The 2 Williams fighting close to real life for 15th and 16th. And also we're getting close between Lucas and Kryptonite in towards Cops now. Go side by side. Lucas backs at the last second. Tries to keep his truck William, but just couldn't. There was no way that was going to work. Choco is now 7 tenths behind Ian. Ian's 1.1 seconds behind Wilson, meaning that the DRS next lap is not available for Ian, which is a big shame for him indeed, because that's going to put him at a really big disadvantage to the 7-8 cars behind. All of that action in front has allowed Schumacher to catch up and also get through on Jake Marsh there in towards Stowe. Absolutely amazing lap from Schumacher. Was 1 point spun around 7 seconds behind, and he's now gained a place on someone. He's now caught up in that train. Everyone from 1st to 17th is within 1 second of each other. This is going to be a massive DRS train, but Ian has got a lot of work to do. As you can see, he's just on that 9-10th gap, so he's very close to being chucked out that DRS zone, possibly over the next few corners.
Yeah, got to say credit to him for getting within the 1 second, because what was going on from 11th place downwards, you anticipated that they were almost going to get cut off from the rest of the field, but no, still everyone within a second of each other for now. And yeah, things developing quite nicely out front. Otis still with the lead. Smokey for him, unfortunately, still in P5. And we didn't mention this at the start. This is I don't often see this in any race that I commentate on, but every single driver started on the same tyre. Everyone
Oh,
started on hards.
I bet say that. I bet to
So
just
there is,
check.
yeah, not a single driver opted to start on a different tyre. I thought maybe a few might be tempted by the medium to hard strategy, but no, looks like everyone's thinking hard to medium for this race. And yeah, I've very rarely seen that.
But Jensen got the DRS, but he's now out that sort of that 1 second gap, so he must have a really bad exit on the exit of Beckett's, meaning he could be under pressure going into the next lap. He's just under the 1 second now, but Finn just ahead of him. He's also just on the cusp of that 1 second, so this is really critical for these two here to be able to fight for positions ahead of them and to be able to defend from positions behind, because Jensen now just keeps popping outside that 1 second gap. But if he gets, if he ends up, and gets a penalty, that is not good for Jensen at all. He's P8, started P9, I believe, and he's now got a 3 second penalty, meaning he'll drop down. And he's dropped down anyway. He's spun at, where's he spun at? I think he spun at the exit of turn 4. And he's letting everyone through. He's going back onto the track, though. I think Jensen is in a spot of trouble there. I don't know if he's got a bit of damage, possibly on his rear wing. I don't know if he was involved with all that fighting a couple of laps ago. But that's a shame for Jensen, because he's now 3.5 seconds behind the pack. Matthew, however, is just 5 tenths behind Rowan, and Rowan not letting Otis get away. He's just holding Otis there, barely. Like, nope, you're not getting away from me. But Otis doesn't have to worry, because he knows he's quicker than Rowan, and if he needs to push, I'm sure he will. I don't think Otis is pushing at this moment, because, yeah, there's no point, is there? If he pushes, he can overdo it and spin off. Issue is now, for Frankie, is outside that 1 second gap. He's 1.4 seconds, meaning Wilson's going to have a really nice treat and possibly look at trying to get a bit closer, or possibly get a move into Stowe, which he doesn't do, because that was a bit ambitious from me. He's nowhere near. But, we've got more DRS zones coming, because we've still got another 22 laps left of this race. And we've got pit stops and all to come. So the 1 second gaps really do mean something. People don't realise how much DRS means. It does a lot. But also with a spin. Ian drowned at the final corner. I don't know what's happened to him, but he's now P16.
Yeah, a few drivers having issues there, and for Jensen, maybe it was that fear of losing the DRS, because he was dropping out of that second, and you saw there, as soon as he dropped out of a second, he picked up a penalty, and then he spun out of Village. So I think just that the drivers know how important it is, and obviously Jensen, in his attempts to try and rectify the situation, has unfortunately overdone it.
Yeah, definitely, and that's, I think, Jensen's race practically over at this point, obviously, and anything can happen. We've still got 21 laps left, but it doesn't look very likely for Jensen to be able to score any points here today. Obviously, if it was a 5 second penalty, he could be able to get himself back, because obviously he can get rid of the penalty, blah, 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 blah. But the fact he's got a 3 second, that penalty won't go until after the race, meaning, just say he gets up to 10th, he could then drop back down again. Whereas if he's got a 5 second penalty done and dusted, he's just got to focus on getting into them positions. Now he's got to focus about who's behind him by 3 seconds. At the moment, he's nearly 3 seconds behind Ian.
And Finn is the one currently dropping back from Black Box. Not under too much threat from Frankie, because he's also just struggling to keep within that second. It's the top 6 at the moment that are pulling away. Black Box, we saw in the last race, he did the fastest lap until the final lap when Otis stole it away. He had some good pace, even if it was aided by a toe on that lap. But he's doing well to stick with the top 5 at the moment and make this sort of a 6-way fight. It's going to be interesting when it comes to the pit stops as to what these drivers do, because a potential 1 lap undercut could make all the difference here. And if you're in P2, you can kind of almost decide the strategy, because you can see what the leader does and then opt to do differently from them.
Yeah.
You're kind of in a good position in second place in that regard, because you can almost pretty much run the strategy and force your opponents into responding.
Yeah, definitely. But I was watching Otis and Rowan just a second ago. The gap was about 5 tenths coming out of Stowe. And then coming in towards turn 5, the gap was nearly 9 tenths. So Otis has really got some pace advantage over Rowan. Steph gets a 3-second time penalty, which is not good for Steph at all. That's the last thing Steph would want. Choco gets a 3-second time. Oh, everyone's getting penalties here. I thought this would be the race where no one gets penalties, but no. I think the stewards are having a nice fair share of handing out penalties. Question is, how many more will get penalties this race? I could see it being a lot more than just 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a strange one, like you say, because usually when the cars are heavy up with fuel, and you're in, you sort of end up driving, usually end up driving a little bit more conservatively, particularly at this opening stage, 50% race. But we're seeing here with drivers, they are running the limits a little bit more in this race, and they're paying the price. Finn really struggling to keep up with top 6 now, 2.5 seconds away from Black Box, and he's gonna start coming under threat from Frankie and Wilson behind him. But yeah, while you're keeping an eye on the battles, I will just quickly look just to see which other drivers are potentially nearing penalties, because that could play a pivotal part at the front.
That's Choco. He's gone round and he's retired. He's spun retired. Frankie and Wilson are fighting towards Brooklands now. Oh, Frank's going to stick his wheel up the inside of Luffield. He's going to keep it there all the way around into Woodcote now. The touch a couple of times. Wilson's going to try and push Frankie as close as he can to that wall. And let's see. Do they go side by side in Cops? Let's see now. Wilson on the outside, Frank on the inside. Wilson backs out, but gets a nice bit of a better exit. On Cops, always moving around a little bit there. But gets stuck behind. He's just a tenth behind Frankie now. All this is helping Finn because he's able to get a little bit more further, but the lag's intense on my side now. And look at Wilson, just 3 tenths behind Frankie. Obviously not going to be able to get much done, I don't think, this lap, but those are getting really close coming through Luffield through to Cops. Frankie fighting Finn. Choco's at the session, so there's only, 14 people remaining. We've lost 4 in the session so far, all of them being pit lane retirements.
Yeah, and I'm just having a quick look, just out of interest more than anything, to see what potentially the penalty situation is for some of these front runners. I can advise that Matthew is also one warning away from a penalty, and Smokey has picked up a warning as well. So those are probably the 2 drivers that have to be careful. But Otis and Rowan at the front are doing nicely in the fact that they haven't picked up anything as yet.
That is what they want to hear. They want to know that Matthew and Smokey behind have got getting close to penalties when they've got nowhere near close to a penalty. Watching Wilson now, still in the back of Frankie. These 3, 7, 8, and 9 are getting very close. Last time it was Finn, Black Box, and Schumacher. This time it's Finn, Frankie, and Wilson. So still 3 drivers going at it. Wilson really on the back of Frankie. They both want to get through on Finn because Finn's just losing time after time after time. Frankie gets a 3-second time penalty for going wide. But yeah, Finn's losing so much time, they need to get through on him soon. Otherwise, they're done in terms of getting up to the top 6 unless there's a safety car. But Wilson just a 10.5 behind Frankie now. Let's see, will we get a move into Stowe from any of these 3 here? Let's see. But yeah, Wilson's gaining and gaining on Frankie. Frankie's also getting on Finn. I don't think he's getting close. No, he's not. None of them are getting close enough. Which means the positions still stay the same, 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah, and I regret trying to look at penalties because I now can't get off the screen, so I may have to leave and rejoin the lobby, just so I can actually see the race again. So yeah, apologies about that. So you have to cover for me for a minute or two while I sort this out.
That is all fine. Don't worry. Matthew on the back of Rowan now. Just look there, 3 tenths is the gap. These 2 are getting closer than they have. This race so far, apart from the start, obviously weather was about 10 meters or what? No, 10 meters away. But yeah, Matthew and a 4.5 tenths on the back of Rowan. This could get interesting. Now, the one thing that could decide the race is also pit stops. I'm not a pit strategist. I'm probably worse than Ferrari at making pit stop strategies. So yeah, I don't have a clue what the pit stops will be. Possibly around lap 16, 17 maybe, I'm not too sure. Moving on to the mediums, or if you're going to be a daredevil, going to the softs, but you have to pit like lap 21 for that. Watching Wilson, just on the back of Frankenep, coming through into Max and Beckett's. These 2, close as always. I just look, Wilson's got so much more pace coming through Max and Beckett's, but it just can't pay off for him down this straight. This time it might though, because look how close he's getting. In towards Stoke. Can he get close enough? No, he can't. Every time Wilson just can't get close. 4.2 seconds now between Black Box and Finn. So, you know, this is massive for people who are just between 7th and 14th. Well, we'll say 7th and 10th. They're not really going to be able to get themselves into the top 6 unless there's a safety car or a big mistake from any of the top 6, but they're consistent. You know, I can't really see any of that happening. But look at Wilson. He's just got so much more pace, and Frankie just got more top speed. Sorry, Marvin. Yes, the same does cut out every few seconds. It's nothing I can fix. It's an issue due to Codemasters, of course. They love to give us nice surprises and features in the game which involve sound cuts. But Wilson just behind Frankie now going into Brooklands. Wilson still stuck behind Frankie. We need to see him move at some point. Wilson's there and he's biding his time so much. He needs to get through. You know, we know Wilson and Frankie are quicker than Finn by a long shot. But the issue is this is going to really ruin their tyres for these for these three. They're really going to have to be careful. Wilson moving all over the place yet again. But we can see now going into Magnussen Beckett's is a lot quicker than Frankie, but he just can't get it on the exit. We'll see now. Does he get it? No, he's 3.5 tenths nearly. He's going in a little bit of time. And Frankie's also about 5 tenths behind Finn. So yeah, when it comes to the straight line speed, Finn seems to have the best straight line speed out of them all, even though he's got no DRS, which sounds odd, but whatever floats your boat, I suppose. Watching Kryptonite now on the back of Lucas. Gets past Lucas, puts himself into P11. Still 1.3 seconds away from any points. Schumacher is also caught back onto back of everyone now after having that spin. Jensen's at the session. He spun countless times, a bit like Mazepin and Latifi put together. So he's out. But yeah, Otis still leads by 7 tenths over Rowan. And then Matthew, who's completing the podium at the moment, making it 2 Xboxes on the podium and just 1 PlayStation, which will be Rowan in P2. Steph has got a penalty, meaning chances are, unless it gets removed, which is very unlikely, Smokey's P4. Steph will be demoted to P6 because Black Box will also get through. I mean, at the moment, the top 6 on track is what it says on the timing boards, but after penalties, it's Otis, Rowan, Matthew, Smokey, Black Box, Steph. But the Alpines and Aston Martin's doing a really good job. 4 and 6 on track and 2 and 5. Which is something I really want. Obviously, we're not here for constructors, but it always looks nice when your team gets some nice haul of points in. But when it comes to points, Xbox have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drivers in the points, whereas PS5, what do I say PS4? PS only have 4 drivers in the points. So they're not doing too good today in terms of consistency. Obviously, an Xbox driver leading the race. That's not a surprise. And of course, it's Otis, no one else. So Rowan just 6 tenths behind.
Yeah, it's going to create a potential headache though for Messrs Alpine and Aston Martin, particularly the drivers that are currently sat behind their teammates in Smokey and Black Box, because they are going to have to be wary not to pit at the same time as their teammates when it comes down to pit stops, and that can impact on their strategy somewhat. So, and you almost end up waiting for your teammate to pit. And if your teammate doesn't pit early on, then it can mean you end up getting undercut by drivers quite significantly when you actually do get to make that stop. And I can't imagine, I mean, maybe Steph and Black Box are communicating, but I mean, maybe Rowan and Smokey are as well. They are VSR drivers, albeit on different platforms. So that communication could be very, very crucial in terms of what sort of results they're going to get. What's astounding me is, particularly when I left the lobby and rejoined, it's just a gap. It's just the amount of time Finn continues to lose to the top 6 drivers, but yet somehow he's not losing any positions to those behind him.
That's still confusing me how, but he's doing a pretty good job at defending. Wilson and Frankie currently is 2 victims, I suppose, in this situation. Obviously, if the top 6 were to pit now, that would be really helpful. Coming out 6 second, having a 6 second advantage over the rest is amazing. Black Box pits. We'll go on board with Black Box and we'll just see if he's pitting for a front wing or if he's just pitting in general to mediums.
Been in the pits as well.
Yep, onto mediums. No front wing change. Nice pit stop by the Alpine crew. Finn is also going onto mediums, followed by Kryptonite, who will also go onto mediums. He wouldn't be going to softs that this early. It'd be very stupid. But now that opens up Frankie and Wilson to be able to start catching up to the top 5, because they're 7 seconds behind, which isn't good. The other issue is for Frankie, he's got a 3-second time penalty. That's good for Wilson because he knows he's got that covered. He's also purple set to 1, so yeah, he's got the position covered due to penalty, but he also wants to get through on Frankie as soon as possible, so we can try and start gaining time. They've already started gaining time onto the top 5, about 10th already, so they're definitely quicker than Finn was. Finn's quickly down in 12th, 5 seconds behind, 5.9 seconds behind Black Box.
That's pretty smart from Black Box to pit this early, because you basically decided, I'm not going to wait for Steph to pit, I'm going to get my pit stop out of the way now, and then I can just, I can focus on, you may have to make those conserve those mediums a little bit more, but it'll be interesting to see just what of an undercut he's going to get here, because none of the top 5 have pitted in response to this. So if he can get those tyres heated up quickly, Black Box can make some serious gains here when these drivers start to pit.
He really could. Wilson takes the fastest lap at 129.7. He was really on fire that lap behind Frankie. He's now got some clean air finally, which is the thing he wanted to hear. Frankie's going to come out P11, I think, if I'm correct. I'm not sure. Go on board with Frankie.
It should be around where Finn is, so maybe P12. Actually, it should be interesting to see. Actually, will he come out in front or behind Finn? Because he was fighting with him prior to the pit stops. Finn, of course, will have had a lap to bring in those tyres. This is going to be interesting. I think Frankie's going to be in front of Finn. He is just, but of course now he's on cold tyres, so Finn will be in prime position to try and attack, potentially down the Wellington Straight.
We'll have a little look at what Finn's going to try and do. Coming down the Wellington Straight, look how close the gap is, 1.3 tenths. This is going to be close into Brooklands. Frankie's really pushing Finn. At this point, Finn goes into Brooklands ahead. Frankie's also going to have a better line onto the entrance of Luffield. Tries to stick up the wheel up the inside. They nearly touch there, but they're both avoiding. Finn gets the move over Frankie, which puts Frankie, 11th, which means net 7th, I think. Oh, the top 4, everyone apart from Otis are pitting.
Smokey's pitting at the same time as his teammate.
Oh.
That's going to be a problem, surely. He's going to get held up in the Aston Martin pit lane. I wonder if any other drivers might get held up by Smokey queuing. Let's see. But this is going to cost Smokey so much time, and they must not be communicating, because I feel like if they were, this would have easily been avoided. He will lose a couple of seconds, although it's not as bad as what it could have been, but surely Black Box, at the very least, is going past him here.
Yeah, but that's not what Smokey wanted. Black Box, we'll see, does he get through on Smokey? I think he might do at this point. Yeah, he will. He'll get way through on Smokey. Means Smokey's now going to come out P8, which would be P6, because obviously Lucas and Jake need to pit as well. But that's not good.
Close Matthew is to Rowan.
Wilson and Finn, are fighting. Also with Frankie, these three back at it again. Wilson coming out the pit lane. It's really under pressure by these two. Frankie got the inside into turn 5 now. Absolutely amazing attempt at an overtake, but that wasn't, he needs a bit more than that to get that move done. Frankie and Finn just behind Wilson, still fighting. Oh, and they're going to push each other to the limits now. Frankie going to go up for the inside in Luffield over Finn. Oh, they make a bit of contact there. And they get through unscathed somehow. Frankie's still stuck behind Finn, and Finn still stuck behind Wilson. Wilson's had a really good outlap, meaning he hasn't had to worry about defending from those behind. Well, ignore the fact those two behind were fighting as well. But Otis is in the pit lane now. We'll see in a minute where he comes out. Will probably be ahead of Rowan, Matthew, Steph, and Black Box and Smokey, but we'll see. Lucas gets 5-second top penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Jake still stays out, so he takes the lead of the race. Coming on to the start of lap 16.
Interesting to see if Otis regains the lead here, and if so, how much of a margin he's got. He's going to remain in the lead. I don't think Rowan is going to be, yeah, I think he's pretty comfortable actually. He may take may lose half a second to a second getting a tires up temperature, but ultimately Otis has not lost out, staying out that extra lap. Obviously kept a good amount of grip in those hards to do a good lap and maintain that position. And it's as you were between the top 6, apart from Black Box being in front of Smokey, and you can just see having to queue in that pit stop just how much time Smokey's lost. That's put him right out of contention, and that could be a pivotal blow in the in Otis's bid to beat him in the cup.
Definitely could, but I'm watching Finn and Frankie back at it again. They've been battling into turn 5, meaning Wilson's able to get out the 1 second to those, meaning Wilson's then going to be hodging after Smokey. But now it's Finn versus Frankie, and this has been getting intense these last couple of laps. The question is, do they keep it clean, or do we see a bit of a, do we see some dirty moves? Because it's possible, you know, they'll be at peak, well, angriness and stress. So will they end up hitting each other? That's the question, because they're very close on pace. Frankie's got a penalty, meaning Finn doesn't really need to worry, because he'll get it over Frankie now. But then again, you do want to be the winner on track. Look at Finn gaining on Frankie now, coming in towards Stowe to get the move at C, sticks behind. Knowing that's a cleverer thing to do at this point.
Ben runs a little bit wide. I was thinking he was about to get a penalty there with all the things that flashed up on the screen, but he got away with it. Maybe lift off the throttle slightly. Otis has got out about 1 second to Rowan, so I wonder now, is Rowan going to start to come under threat from Matthew and Steph behind? He's lost crucially about second, and I don't think that was a particularly great exit onto the Wellington straight either. So is this Matthew's opportunity to try and get what is essentially P2 in this race, with Jake Marsh being out of position due to not pitting yet? So this is a great chance here for Matthew, and we'll see if he can make a move stick.
Yeah, it is a really good chance for Matthew. And Steph behind. Steph's really on some pace now. About 2.2 seconds to Black Box. Smokey's just 2.5 seconds behind Black Box as well. Meaning the gap between Steph and Smokey is 5 seconds. Which before this lap was before the pit stops was about 5/10. So it's increased dramatically. But Matthew, look how close he is on the back of Rowan. Rowan just knocked the pace now. He's 1.9 seconds behind Otis. Is this Matthew's opportunity? Coming out of Beckett now, down towards Stowe. Let's see. Is this the chance for Matthew to get P2? He's gaining. He's going to get closer, but he sticks behind. I think that was a choice there by Matthew, just to stay behind, knowing it's a safer option. Maybe he wants a clear move, not a possible move, if you get what I mean. But Rowan is now 2 seconds behind Otis. This is really critical for this race. Ian's left the session. That'll probably be due. Oh no, he's already out. So, yep, Ian's thought, I've had enough. I'm off. Matthew, yep, yet again, just 3 tenths behind Rowan. It shows how much the DRS makes the race here. Just to pull away, Matthew and Steph are really on the back at the gearbox of Rowan. Coming down towards exit turn 5. Now charging down towards Brooklands again, and Matthew's just able to keep close up, but he's not ever close enough to make a move.
No, and he opted last time on the hanger straight not to use his battery. So it was like you say, it was a clear effort for Matthew not to make the move then. But it looks to me like he's got more pace than the Aston Martin at this current phase of the race. Rowan hasn't really adapted to those mediums all too well, it would appear, and he is coming under significant pressure. But I wonder if this time around Matthew might be more inclined to use his battery to attack. He has got a bit more to use than Rowan, but he won't know that, of course. But does he get a good exit onto the hanger straight? It looks like it's a pretty decent exit here. He's still not using his battery though, and he's not even in the slipstream. So I wonder what... He must have some thinking behind this, but I'm just wondering, what is his strategy here? Because right now he's looking like he's doing everything possible not to overtake him.
I think Matthews, at the moment, he's being realistic. He knows Otis is in another world now. He's got out of the DRS. Otis is just going to be flying away. You know, he's off. So he knows, realistically, a P2 is possible. So the question is he's going to do what the first and second do, but this time for second and third. He's going to possibly hang back until the final lap, unless obviously Rowan makes a mistake, and then charge after him, uses all his battery and fly past. Because you can see Matthew is just gaining and gaining and gaining without being in the slipstream, without using the RS. He was just on the back of Rowan. So it's definitely strategical. The question is, does it go to plan on the final lap, or 25 or 24? Steph, he's just sitting behind Matthew, so I don't think Steph can really do much. He's got his penalty, so You know, he's kind of out of fighting for that P2 or P3. You just got to see if you can keep Black Box and Smokey behind. I think the plan from Black Box is possibly get the 3-second gap to Steph and then just hold Smokey up. Because that means Steph will be guaranteed the P4, which is obviously a very good result. So it's anything can happen now at this point. It's getting very interesting for many drivers and teams working together. Some teams aren't working together. Obviously, with Aston Martin's, Alpines seem to be working together. Or I'm just making a picturesque story of them working together. I don't know. But look at Matthew, right behind, 1.5 tenths. And Big C says the gap between Otis and Smokey is 32 points. 34 points are available next race. Meaning, if Smokey loses the position to Wilson or Frankie, which is very unlikely due to them having penalties and also being nearly 5 seconds behind, Smokey's just going to be able to stick in this, I think. But it will be difficult for him to win it. You know, if Smokey somehow comes out this Crossplay Cup champion, it will be something big. Even though it's not, you know, it's not a big championship. It's not, you know, that some of these drivers aren't practicing as much as they would for the normal seasons of PSGL, WOR, and, you know, other things. But it'd be still a good comeback. Really good comeback.
Yeah, and it'd be frustrating for Smokey tonight because essentially that queuing for his pit stoppers, I think, has probably ruled him out. I think he would have been right amongst this battle for P2 that we're seeing now. But he's making up time to Black Box, but after that, it's probably going to be difficult for him to get any further positions. He might be able to get within 3 seconds of Steph. That's the other potential goal he has. So a maximum you'd say at the moment, bar if there's no collisions in front, the maximum Smokey's looking at here is P4 for this race at best. So it's not really going to close up enough. Matthew's using some of his battery now, so he's surely going to go for the move into Stowe, and he does go up the inside, and it was all a little bit too easy. And he didn't even need to use his battery for all too long, to be honest. It was just using it for a split second, gave him the speed he needed to get past Rowan. And I'm interested to see what Matthew's pace is like now, because he's been able to stick behind Rowan very, very comfortably. So you suspect that he might start to pull away here, and will Rowan come under threat from Steph?
It could happen. I don't think Steph's going to fight too much because of the penalty. But Steph, you know, we'll be able to see if Steph got the pace of Rowan. We'll see over these next few laps if Matthew's got the pace. You know, obviously, I don't think he's got the pace of over Otis, but he could be close enough. Jake Marsh takes the fastest lap with a 28.7 as he's on the soft tyres, so he'll be quicker than anyone on track anyway, no matter if he's the slowest driver. Smokey, though, 5 tenths behind Black Box. This could be crucial for Smokey's championship charge. If he can get through in Black Box and then also get into that 3 seconds of Steph, which is very likely at this point, the gap between Smokey and Otis will go down from 32 points to 28 points, I think. Yes, if my maths is correct, I don't know. Connor can correct me in the chat. It'll go from 32 to 28, meaning that in the final race, if it stands like how it is now, Otis can only score 2 points next week. If it does go Smokey. To that... Carry on.
Smokey round the outside into Stowe, and he's got the move done before we've even got there. So, yeah, comfortable move for Smokey. He just has more pace than Black Box, it would appear, at this stage. And that's one of the positions ticked off for Smokey, and he's within 6 tenths of claiming the other. And I think we've got to thank Jake Marsh in the end. Well, our maths part of our brain has to thank Jake Marsh, because his soft tyre run eliminates us having to take into account the fastest lap point as well. Yeah,
which is a lifesaver. So Jake Marsh, you are a lifesaver. Thank you very much. We still need to learn how to do maths, but at this point, there's no point. You know, we've done it. We've done commentating long enough, and we still can't get the maths right. Is there any hope of us getting the maths right? Probably not. Oh, Kryptonite and 2D fighting into turn 3. Oh, big. Yeah, 2D went really deep there. Kryptonite also had a big snap of OC. Kryptonite gets through on 2D with the DRS as well, meaning that was a pretty good move for Kryptonite. Pretty simple, I think, in the terms of the fact 2D went super deep into turn 3. Oh, but 2D's right in the back of Kryptonite going out of turn, going out of Luffield. And let's see, big snap from Kryptonite as well. But the question is, can Tudi get through on Kryptonite coming down towards Stone? Wilson gets another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, meaning Frankie will get the position over count back. Finn gets a 3-second time penalty. I mean, at the moment, Black Box doesn't even have to think about worrying about losing positions from behind because they've all got penalties behind him. But watching Tudin out on the back of Kryptonite. Let's see if he gets the move. Kryptonite seems to be just a lot quicker in a straight line. Even with DRS, Tudi's caught up half a tenth. Jake Marsh gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Everyone's getting penalties left, right, and centre. Rowan, 4 tenths behind Matthew. The thing is, even if Otis gets a 3-second at this point, it wouldn't even matter. Because he's 3.2 ahead. Meaning that if Otis gets a penalty, Matthew will probably push more than he is now. But if not, there's no point Matthew pushing. It's just going to cause his tyres to wear even more. That box was the one to pit first, wasn't he? So that could be his tyres could start coming into the things now have been a lot slower than Smokey's and Steph's and etc. ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, maybe if Otis got a penalty, you might see 1 or 2 drops of sweat on his palms at most. But like you say, I think he's got this absolutely covered. Matthew hasn't pulled away from Rowan like I maybe thought he might do. I thought he might have got the second gap by now, but Rowan equally looking quite comfortable sat behind Matthew, so maybe that battle's not quite over just yet. Kryptonite and Tudi fighting over P11 like they're fighting for the World Championship, which is nice to see, but ultimately it may end up not counting for any points for either of them. Rowan, I thought he was going to maybe look into for a move in Stowe, but nothing doing. Yeah, Otis has got this absolutely in the bag. I've cursed it many times as a commentator, but I actually feel pretty comfortable saying that because none of these drivers are robots, but Otis at times you feel like he's closer to it than most.
Definitely. Yep, I can definitely agree on that comment there. We're just going to hope Otis doesn't end up spinning off now, otherwise you are definitely to blame, and Otis will be very angry with you at the end of this race. Yeah, 3.6 seconds is absolute. It's just, it's amazing, isn't it? Come out the pit lane and has just gone from 1.7 seconds at the exit of Brooklands. Now coming into Brooklyn, exit of Brooklands entrance Lovefield, to 3.6 seconds. 2 seconds he's gained over the past, 10 laps? It's stuff you don't really expect to see in league racing. But Otis has came here to show us what he's made of, and he's really shown us what he's made of. So the question is, when does he switch to PC? Because that could be the start of his actual, he could be starting possibly an esports career. You never know.
Yeah, definitely a name to keep an eye on, because he's got all the credentials as we're seeing here. I'm keeping my eyes mainly fixed at the moment, I have to say, on that gap between Smokey and Steph. At the moment, Smokey's not quite doing enough to get within 3 seconds of Steph and gain that extra position. What's helping Steph out, of course, in that regard, is that he's getting DRS off the back of Rowan and Matthew in front, whereas Smokey isn't getting the aid of DRS. And I think that is what's holding him back in terms of bridging that gap at the moment.
Yeah.
Smokey will be praying that the 3 in front, something happens, there's a bit of a scuffle or something, because right now, while they're getting that DRS, he's unable to pull that gap close enough to what he needs. And they've all, in theory, got the same age of tyres, so tyre wear shouldn't be an issue, unlike with Black Box, who you're seeing is just starting to drop off the back of Smokey slightly. But as you said, he's comfortable in P6 because everyone behind him has penalties.
Yeah, indeed. If it's that the gap is as of now is 30 points. Obviously Otis first, Smokey 5th, meaning going into the final race, Otis can only score 4 points over Smokey. So if Smokey finishes 4th in the next sprint race and Otis wins, and then it'll be over there because the gap will go up to 8 points. So it's going to be a close one in the next final race. Otis DNFs, it could be a whole different story. You never know. So we've still got 1 lap left this Grand Prix. At 25 at 26, this race has absolutely flew by. And luckily, we've had no issues with desync, which we thought we would have. Well, I think everyone thought we would have, not just me and you, Jake.
Yeah, probably had one or two lobby issues last week, but given the stress and anxiety that we had just getting into the lobby tonight, it's actually been, once we've got in, it's actually been pretty smooth sailing on the most part. Steph gets another penalty, which is absolutely pivotal. So Smokey now is pretty much nailed in for P4. So that is an extra 2 points he's going to get, which, looking at the gap, he wasn't going to get until Steph got that penalty. So that is pivotal for Smokey, and also for Steph, will drop him behind his teammate Blackbox, unless Blackbox loses a lot of time on this final lap, which I just don't see happening.
Well, yeah, we're going to go on board with Rowan now for these final few corners of this Grand Prix, because the question is, does Rowan get through on Matthew? Because Rowan doesn't seem to have the pace over Matthew, but he seems to be able to keep within a few tenths, 4 to 5. He's gained it this time 3.5 tenths, 4. This is going to be close. Into Magnus and Beckett's they go, and the gap's still 3 tenths, 4 tenths. Question is, does Rowan drain his battery and get through? Coming down this straight, let's see. It's gaining, he's gaining, he's gaining. Let's see, does he get him? It's going to be close. I don't think he's going to do it. No, he's not. No, he doesn't, but he tries to push Matthew as much as he can, but isn't able to make the move.
And Otis coming round the final few corners there. Now, just what can you say? A perfect drive. He takes the fastest lap point on the final lap as well. That's astonishing on the medium tyre compared to the soft tyres that Jake had fitted previously. Matthew in second, Rowan third. Smokey takes P4 thanks to that extra penalty for Steph. Blackbox in P5. Steph does drop behind his teammate by a couple of attempts as well. Schumacher P7, Frankie P8, Finn in 9th, and Wilson, thanks to his penalties, drops down to 10th, but does steal the final point. And yeah, what can you say about Otis and what hasn't already been said? But that fastest lap is seriously impressive on the final lap.
Really is.
And that does give him an extra point of leeway going into next week.
The gap
but he
will
hasn't.
Be 29 points.
Yep, which means essentially he can afford to finish. I think as long as basically if he beats Smokey in the sprint race, he's done enough. But he can probably finish a few positions behind him as well now. So yeah, it's looking very good. Unless he can't race next week and Smokey dominates, it's looking very, very good for Otis indeed.
But who would you say is your driver of the day, Jake?
A tough one indeed.
We'll have a driver of the main race and then driver of like the week, I suppose we could say.
For me, I'd probably give it the driver of the sprint race. I would give to Otis, quite boringly, I know, but he held off from the pressure from behind from Rowan. But for the feature race, I'm quietly impressed by the job that Matthew did, to be honest with you. Started in P3. There wasn't too much changing in position in the sort of top end of the field, but Matthew looked really good, particularly after that pit stop when he went on to the medium tyre. Got past Rowan, took his time about that move as well. He calculated it, and he held off Rowan even at the end when it was looking like Rowan might have a chance to get that P2 back. So yeah, for me, I would say Matthew for the feature race, and I'd say for him definitely that's his best showing of the season.
See, for me, if I have to go for the feature race, I would definitely say, in my opinion, Schumacher. Started 8th, dropped down to 18th, was 6 seconds behind, has come back up to P7. In my eyes, I'd say that's driver of the day. Driver of the sprint race and just overall, I'd have to say Otis, but I think that'd be a bit boring. So I'm going to go with Matthew. I think Matthew's had a really good week here tonight. That's such an odd saying, isn't it? He's had a good week here tonight. No, he's had a good couple of races here tonight. That makes more sense. But yeah, absolutely amazing by Otis. As normal, he's took every single point possible. 8.25, and then the one for the fastest lap. But going into round 5, Jake, should we make a prediction of what track we think it will be, and we'll just see if we're lucky enough for it to be chosen?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I won't be here next week to commentate, but I will keep an eye on what track is chosen. It's interesting actually, because if Silverstone wasn't chosen this week, I probably would have said Silverstone next week. But I don't know. I'm probably potentially saying this because it is my favourite track in the world, but I think it will be a very good finale for the season. I'm gonna say Suzuka will be my guess.
Nice choice. I'm going to go with something a lot different to Suzuka. I'm going to go with Baku.
Oh,
So
that
a
is very
lot different
different.
between Suzuka, but we'll see. Connor's probably heard this and thought, you know what? To annoy both of them, we won't pick anything. We'll pick something entirely different. So, but yeah, it's nice that we had our thoughts of what it could be. But Jake, thank you again for joining me here today, and thanks for joining me in the last 3 races. It's unfortunate we won't be here next week, so hopefully someone can jump in. Otherwise, I'll be alone. But
Yeah.
yeah.
At least you've got a decider to commentate on,
True.
and let's look at it the other way. Maybe Connor wasn't considering either track, but then has suddenly thought they've got a point.
Well, we'll have to see. But thank you all for joining us here today for round 4 of the Crossplay Cup here at PSGL, and we'll see you all next week for the 5th and final round, where it's Smokey versus Otis going into the final race. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and see you all next time. Goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.